You are called to join the King's Guard. No kingdom in all of Africa shares this privilege. Train hard, fight harder. We fear no one. And we fear no pain.
The adrenaline that sort of carries you through the movie is just like, I came out of the thing, I was like, I'm exhausted. It's such, there's so much, obviously there's so much heart to it, but the thing that I think hopefully people also see is the action is so interestingly choreographed. I feel like it really plays to the womanhood of these warriors, particularly for Lashana, for your character, for Ngozi. She's got those nails that are like, whoosh, and I just was like, that is such a clever way of creating a holistic experience of what these women are like. And I was wondering for both of you, stepping into these roles that are sort of, in a way, unencumbered by this modern take of how women are supposed to fight. How did you've both done action stuff before, how does it differ doing this than it has in the other sort of action things that you've done?
Oh,
very different.
very
different.
Yes,
I mean, firstly, the degree to which we were doing our own stunts, we did all our own stunts, was different. The approach to stunts I'll speak personally, was different as well. It felt very character driven. It felt very rooted in not just the story of the action itself, but also what each of our characters would do, how we would fight. It felt like it was paired up with our, not just the personalities, but our physicalities as well. You know, particularly with Amenza and Azogi, you see moments of teamwork as well on the battlefield, which I think is really great because you've got these two different styles that come together and still are able to work with a synergy. So I think, you know, Gina said she wanted us to do all our own stunts when we both individually came onto the project. Danny Hernandez and the stunt team were so excited to just create stunts. Like, I'm just seeing Danny now.
You're like,
oh my God, you guys, I got this thing, it's gonna be so cool. Okay, this is what you're gonna do. And like every time we'd yell action, he'd be like, let's get it, girls!
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Yeah. So like, you know, the passion behind really trying to create something that felt visceral and immersive and real and kind of transportative was massive on all fronts. And also we knew that these warrior women were incredible and we wanted to try and be as close to that as we could possibly be. So I think the nails are a real thing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they used to do that. They used to harden them in brine.
Yes.
So that they could use them as a weapon. So it's, you know, we drew from them and then we just went from there.
And you really see it because you've got the team of the female soldiers and then the men, and you watch them both in battle and see how differently they work either together or individually. And I was wondering, as you look at developing, like you said, that the action is rooted in the characters' personalities as well as being women. When you look at playing a character, are you taking into account her whole arc as you approach each scene, or do you sort of stick with each moment as it comes?
A bit of both, really. As soon as you read a good, meaty script, you have everything there for you to play with. And I was glad that Azogi on the page was someone that I was delighted already that was being written and would be in the history of cinema, someone like her. So I, like Sheila said, started with the physical work. I wanted to get into her core, literally, where she moves from, where she speaks from, where she feels from, how loud or quiet her gut is, how much she listens to that, and how much she brings that to the battlefield, whether that be the battlefield in her mind or the literal battlefield. And she's constantly on this journey of dealing with her past and how she is able to use that to encourage these young people that come into the palace to train to be in a Gojier. How she guides them in the most organic way, but also it's like a healing therapeutic experience for her, injecting this life and this breath into these young women. Because she's taken so much from Naniska, played by Viola Davis, and that's almost her mother figure, because she's been there for so long. She's carved out this really special place in the palace that she's the best one. She's the one in charge of these women. She's the one, the go-to, the one for advice, the one for everything. And then every so often you see these moments where you see what she aspires to be, how her past is holding her back, how much fear she has in herself, actually. And it's that fear that drives her to be the best, which then goes into strong black women and having to be the best and having to be excellent and having to show up every day for yourself, but also for your people. And the way she does that is really commendable, but it's very taxing for her having to go down that route that she chooses willingly, but is a great payoff. So seeing her journey on the page, I was able to just see it. I just saw the film. I saw her journey really clearly, and Gina was really up for being collaborative and having me, express all my notes and all her past and everything I'd written for her. And it was just organic. So yeah, if it's not on the page, you've got a lot of work to do. But when it's on the page, you're just able to just play with the other actors, and we were able to easily do that.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I quite liked about it was that there's all this talk about representation and universality of storytelling. And I thought with The Woman King, cinema, obviously, you're meant to see yourself in these films. And so often people who aren't seeing themselves in these films have to, right? You have to find a way to see yourself in movies that aren't telling stories for you or about you. And for your characters, I was wondering, what was that sort of a weight that you were aware of, or did you want to just make a movie that is a good movie in and of itself? Obviously those things kind of play into each other, but I was wondering what your sort of feelings about that were.
For me personally, I feel like, of course, we were aware of the significance of the project as it relates to representation. But when it comes to the actual work and the execution of that work, you have to throw that away because that's going to get in the way. Because then you're worrying too much about, what's out there already about us, what the ideals are that already exist about black women. And don't get me wrong, there had to be an awareness when it came to the sensitivity of hair, for example, or, makeup or costume, or what a certain line might mean, under a certain lens. But also we were just trying to portray people. I think it's really important, alongside the conversation of representation and, how important it is to see yourself, that we also just come back to the central human aspect of who we are.
Right.
Black women are not an ideology, and we're not a myth, and we're not a fantasy, and we're not a concept. So we have to make sure that even in the specificity and the intersectionality of dealing with us and telling our stories, we're still coming back to us as people. It's really important to balance those two things. Otherwise, if we focus too much on one, then it just becomes about that and only that. Right. And I do think that the great thing about this film is it doesn't just appeal to black women, it appeals to everyone. And everyone can see themselves in it, so it's a beautiful thing.